Welcome to the Awakened Human Podcast, the place to be for highly progressive yet extremely grounded intuitive guidance, energetic support, metaphysical tools, and higher consciousness for highly successful, ambitious, soul-centered visionaries and leaders like you who want to make a global impact and achieve your highest fulfillment by aligning with your soul's true divine agenda and your role in God's plan of lighted creation, and by utilizing your divine gifts, talents, and abilities from the higher realms. We do this by working with the non-physical realms of higher guidance, energy, intuition, and powerful metaphysical tools for healing and transformation. We understand that the real change and transformation that's being called for on planet Earth and in our own lives and our own businesses doesn't come from outside of us, but rather from within. And that the change that we desire to experience in our lives and in our world requires us to change from the inside. I'm your host, Lori Ann Spagna. I'm a best-selling author, spiritual catalyst, intuitive, energy worker, ascension guide, multidimensional channel, animal communicator, visionary, lightworker, and luminary. I have dedicated my entire professional life to helping thousands and thousands of humans and animals all over the world in service and contribution to the light, which is the expansion, the upliftment, the evolution of humanity, to awaken, to uplift, and to align with our true divine source, which exists within each and every one of us. It is my passion, joy, and purpose to share this information, energy, and consciousness with you. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing time with me. Let's get started. Hello, blessings, beloved. It is great to be here with you today. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for showing up and participating. Thank you for being magnificent, you. You are magnificent. Do you know that? Do you know that about yourself? You are magnificent. It's true. It's true. Before today's show is over, I want you to, or right after today's show is done, or while you're listening, I want you to go look in the mirror and tell yourself how magnificent you are and give yourself a high five and celebrate you in some way. Either do a little jump for joy or put a smile on your inner energy and just feel your brilliance. Because when you do that, immediately you start to feel better. And you start to be better and more of the truth of who you are, which is that you are magnificent and brilliant, a beautiful soul, awakening in this physical earthly reality. Thank you for being here. All right. So today I want to try to finish the second part of the navigating 4D. Because if you noticed, while I was doing that podcast, I had some people come into the room. I didn't expect them as quickly. I was on a roll that day with that podcast, and it just, anyway, I didn't get to finish it. So this is part 2 of navigating 4D. And if you haven't listened to that part, I would really encourage you to go back and listen to the navigating 4D video. Even though I got interrupted at the very end, I thought it was really good. It really helpful understanding of what happens while we're navigating 4D. And the challenge of navigating 4D really is that you don't realize, most people don't really realize that's what's happening while it's happening. But it's always kind of, you're navigating 4D when you're working in a conscious way through what we call shadow aspects or difficult challenges. And so that video, that first part of that podcast really goes into that. And that's where I want to pick up because it's such an important topic. And most people really don't know when they're navigating 4D. They're just going through life as a conscious awakening being. And from their perspective, they're like, how is this happening to me? Or like if you've experienced things like this, you might be like noticing you're going through something and you're thinking, this is insane. Or you're incredulous over some kind of experience. And it might be a relationship dynamic or a financial situation or a health challenge, or it might be some kind of career situation or circumstance. It's something going on in your physical world that to some people or to the 3D world or everyday person, they might start to identify or label it as you. In other words, they could say something like, well, she always has health problems. She just has a lot of health problems. Or she's always got, or he's always got financial issues. Or, that's just how part of how they in the 3D world might identify you. They don't see it for, this is something that soul is navigating through to address and resolve. Now, in the 3D world, you will be labeled that way, meaning a 3D person in that world, they take on labels. It's not seen as they're going through this in a 4D way, right? So they might be labeled, this person has Asperger's, or this person has Down syndrome, or this person has this disease, this person has cancer, this person has addiction issues, this person's depressed, this person has depression, this person has money issues. Oh, they're a debtor. I remember when I used to go through 12-step programs and there was Debtors Anonymous. There's nothing wrong with those things. You're an alcoholic. Like in those programs, you're identified that way. Even in 12-step programs, they tell you you're powerless over alcohol. And I get it. In that reality, that is the way it is. I'm not judging it, but this is what happens. You will get labeled as those things. And you take on that label, whatever the label is, that's 3D. Now, as you start awakening, things like this happen, but you can no longer identify with the label. You start recognizing this is not who I am. And this is not the experience that I want anymore. So if the label is a health label, you start recognizing I no longer want to have this disease, but the doctors have told me there's no other solutions other than whatever they've presented. So you start recognizing something more must be possible, and you're looking for some kind of healing or transformation, right? If it's financial challenges that you feel like you've tried everything or you've gone through this your whole life and you just want to have a breakthrough. And you start realizing everything you've tried in the physical world hasn't really worked. Or another example that catapults you into the 4D reality is you start recognizing that the God that you believed in, somehow it just isn't true. Or that somehow you want to have a deeper, more fulfilling relationship with God. Or somehow it could be even like you've had lots of psychic gifts, or maybe you've used a lot of great psychic gifts, right? But you're like, this isn't spirituality. Like just because you have psychic gifts, it's not a spiritual up leveling. So you want to, or another example, you want to like evolve or grow somehow spiritually. Another example, I know a lot of super psychics and really good psychics, intuitives, animal communicators, but in some cases, they realize they're carrying things like anger or resentment, or they can't get along well with people. Maybe they have relationship challenges. Even if you're not super psychic, you might have relationship challenges, and you start recognizing this dynamic is not working for you anymore, right? So the elevating into 4D then becomes a willingness to work through these types of issues, whatever it is that is uniquely you're working through. And you're recognizing that you need to work through these issues in a way that is beyond what's presented as normal in the mainstream world, because those solutions are too limiting. And it could also be even, as a career person, if you want to elevate in your career, or you need to become a better version of yourself in order to either get the promotion or to build your business greater or to become a better leader, right? That's another great example. You start realizing I need to use tools and practices. This is a lot of people get into this because they want to manifest, right? They start getting into it. They want to manifest their best life. Okay, these are all examples of how you start shifting into a new paradigm because you're breaking out and busting free of the old prescribed way of being. And so as you're elevating, you now have to face in a conscious way that shadow aspect of yourself or that challenge or obstacle or hurdle or barrier that has prevented you from achieving what you want to achieve, whether it's more spiritual unification, whether it's greater psychic abilities or greater psychic capacities, or whether it's the ability to be a better healer or to help and heal yourself and others, whether it's overcoming some kind of physical health challenges or financial challenges, right? You get it. So now you're like, okay, I'm going to face this in a new way and address it in a new way. Now, within that challenge area, you're going through it, but you're in the early stages still identifying as it. In other words, still identifying as you have this disease, or you have these issues, or you're dealing with this horrible relationship type of dynamic, whether it's a divorce, an ex that won't leave you alone, or an ex who won't pay child support, or an ex who is leaving you and you don't want to be left, whatever it is, or you're trying to have a better relationship with your boss and you try to send them love. You're in the entryway of recognizing you want change, but you still identify as the experience and in the situation. So you're identifying through your life situation circumstances that that's all very real. You're not yet seeing the greater picture on sort of the higher spectrum, so to speak, of 4D. Oh, this is part of the soul's agenda, this thing that I'm here to resolve. And at the level of consciousness where I've been residing, I'm in it. But there's a part of me that has the solutions, or that can see more clearly, or come up with greater solutions and resolutions. And I'm not yet aligned with that part of me. And that part of me gets freed and liberated as I align and attune to that part of me who has the solutions, who has a greater visionary picture. And as I become more of that part of me, I no longer hang out and resonate with this. Therefore, these experiences become a thing of the past. Just soak that in for a minute, because it's good. It's really good. It's true. Because as you grow into a greater, more fulfilled part of yourself, the things that are most upsetting and challenging to you, most difficult, you can expunge those things from your experience altogether. You never have to attract them or call them into your life again, because now the soul's agenda starts to get fulfilled. I'm free of it. I'm liberated from it. Now, this window in this 4D, this is 4D in the physical earthly world. It's not 4D in the non-physical. Non-physical is you're starting to become more conscious. You're starting to become more psychic. You're starting to interact with ghosts and dead people and loved ones who have transitioned. And you can do animal communication and telepathy. You can use your gifts as a healer. You're an energetic sensitive. Those things are happening too. But in the physical earthly world, you have to navigate physical earthly kinds of situations and circumstances because the soul's agenda wants to elevate and evolve and progress. And so the idea then here is when you start opening up to new potentials and possibilities that come from higher or purer states of consciousness, you can be freed and liberated from those things. Here's the catch, the big catch, is that people tend to exit too quickly. I've seen this over and over again. They unconsciously want a pill that fixes them really fast or a solution immediately. They don't take into account that it took them 50 or 60 years or a lifetime or countless lifetimes to have to recognize those problems, and to realize they need a new solution. And then they get into the 4D reality and they start looking to like healers or intuitives and they start learning some new tools and it just starts to help, but they don't realize they need to elongated period of time in this new reality for the change to really, really fully take place. Because if it was 60 years or 50 years or 30 years of one way, that change in the 4D isn't going to happen overnight. It's a whole new way of becoming. It's a whole new way of being. And there's constant energetic shifts and changes along the journey to help the transformation to happen. And most people, what they do is they quit too soon because they're still deeply wired. And the more difficult or challenging their life circumstances are, typically, the sooner they quit. So, in other words, if it's a health issue, physical health issues, they tend to give up faster or sooner because it's so much heaviness weighing them down that it'll call them back. It draws them back. And it takes a while to really clear all that crap. This is the navigating the 4D. It's not a pill. It's a series of energetic clearing and shifting and changing and restructuring consciousness, realigning and reattuning, so that as one levels up, they're just being liberated from these old energies. But the old energies that remain are constantly pulling them down. And if they give in and give up too fast, too soon, they still get results, but they don't have as good of results as they can have if they stay in it and give more time, because they're not always aware that unconsciously they believe or perceive that they want it fixed and cleared right away. They want a pill, especially when there's physical health issues. This will happen. Now, this is why it's very important on the journey to acknowledge and recognize the little small progresses along the way. So, for example, in Sacred Visionary Mentorship, we're always doing, we're doing big win acknowledgements regularly. Anyone have any wins or celebrations? We always do that because it's really important to acknowledge along the way all of your positive growth, even if it seems small, even if it's very incremental. Because in truth, if you do too much clearing too fast, not only can the body not handle it, it typically will go into a lot of shaking, and can be very uncomfortable. But also, it's almost like the people around can't handle the change you're going through. And even some part of you, saying you, but the person, will sometimes think from time to time that they're going insane or feel like they're going insane. And this is why in very early stages, it used to be, even when I was waking up, they used to tell us, don't tell people about this. They'll think you're going insane. Don't, like when I was studying in Maui with my master then, who was teaching me all about energy, he used to tell us all the time, don't tell anybody about this. They'll just think you're insane. And a lot of masters, a lot of us have learned how when there's densities that want to hold on to the old way of being, we level up and we let them go, and bless them on their way, because if they're not really ready for true transformation, they're going to choose to revert to their old ways anyway. And it's up to them, free will choice, right? But that's all 4D stuff. I hope this is making sense. I hope this is landing, because navigating 4D is one of the most fulfilling and rewarding stages, the most development you can have. The most growth, the most transformation is in those periods of navigating 4D, but they also can be incredibly challenging. So if a person is just expecting an immediate payoff, or if it doesn't show up exactly or precisely how they want it to, or the way they expected to, they can thwart their own progress and have setbacks. I've seen it a lot, especially, like I said, people who have mental and/or physical health issues. With financial health issues, they have dips, highs and lows, peaks and valleys, until it becomes eventually a real transformation, right? Relationship challenges, same type of thing, peaks and valleys. I once interacted with this person. I remember there was a dynamic there. It was a work-related, interaction, And there was a dynamic there where at a certain point I was like, I thought I was through all this. Like you'll say that, people say that a lot, because you've done that work in the 4D. You'll get to a period where you're like, I thought I was through all this. I thought I was done with all this. How come it's showing up again? It's just another level of mastery. It's just another frequency fence you're passing through, right? So it's kind of that saying, don't quit before the miracle happens, because it really does, can, and will. But that's the traversing of the 4D, is while you're clearing, healing, and resolving things in the physical world that are generally not to your liking, but that you need to resolve. You're here to resolve them, because if you don't, the old 3D ways really aren't helping. That you get to a point where you hit the wall, you found your blocks, you're blocked, you don't know what it is, and what's going to unblock and unstuck you, get you unstuck and help you elevate, exist beyond the physical world, beyond the mainstream. Right? This is why when people feel like they've hit their blocks, it's because it's something beyond their current frequency bandwidth that's going to elevate them. All of that is part of traversing 4D. And it is some of the most challenging and difficult and yet rewarding period of time. And it comes and it goes. But overall, when you clear something, you are free, liberated, and expunged from it when you do it successfully forever. My biggest advice is to not quit before the miracle happens. All right. I'll give one other piece of advice on this, and that is to find a person, a mentor, coach, healer, next level, who can help you to navigate, who has already successfully navigated the higher realms, so that as you're navigating, you don't get stuck in them and sucked into them and continue that cycle that you've repeated however long, like on a hamster wheel, so that you can finally have the breakthroughs that you deserve and are here for. The whole point of successfully navigating 4D is that you get through those shadow unconscious areas of life, unconscious blocks, and soul agenda challenges and opportunities, so that you level up into new frequency bandwidth we could identify as 5D and beyond, that then provides you more openings for more growth, but not as harsh, much more enjoyable overall. This is available to you and to anyone who's choosing it. But don't quit before the miracle happens, and make sure you get yourself a magnificent coach, mentor, guide, healer to support and assist you during the challenging times when you're navigating some of life's most difficult and challenging times. And I'll say before I wrap, one last thing. If you're in the love and light movement, all love and light alone will not do it, because navigating 4D requires people to look at their shadow aspects. And if you're an all positives, love and light kind of person, you can't get past the shadow by pretending it's not there. Just doesn't work. All right. I'm sending you so much love. I am wishing you your most benevolent best. I hope this has been helpful. This is the second part to navigating 4D. Please make sure you listen to part 1 so that you can get the full benefits, because it's a pretty in-depth conversation and I barely scratched the surface. But I hope it helps and you get a better understanding of exactly what 4D is and how it is meant to serve you and support you in your journey as you awaken, or elevate and expand and up level into the higher levels of consciousness of who you truly are. Okay, I'm sending you so much love, and I'm wishing you farewell for now. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for listening today. If you loved the show and if you benefited in any way, if it helped you to up level or expand your consciousness, if you gained any new insights or ideas, if it made you think or become more aware, or if there were some strategies or intuition that you may have benefited from in any way, would you please do me 2 easy and simple favors? First, if you would be willing to leave a review, it would mean the world to me. I'd be so grateful. And second, if you're willing to share this show with anyone else who would benefit, you can either post it on your social media or just email it to someone and share it with another person or any other people. It would be so awesome. This kind of thing is so helpful in expanding consciousness on the planet and helping others to benefit from this kind of teaching, which just simply isn't generally readily available in the mainstream. So sharing it really helps others benefit and helps our planet evolve and awaken. Plus, expressing gratitude and generosity in this way will also expand your capacity to give and receive even more. Either way, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for participating and for sharing, and overall, just for being the magnificent, the spectacular, the brilliant, the fabulous, the wonderful you that you truly are, and for allowing yourself to be the very best version of you today and every day. All my love and gratitude to you.